Today I wanted to get real with some fake amp talk. If you've watched any videos on this channel, you know I love my digital modeling, and that's pretty much what I've been using to make a living for the past 8 years or so. I've literally not used a real amp and mic on stage in that long. And I've got them all. I've got Fractal, I've got Line 6, I've got Headrush, I've got Quad Cortex, and it's a problem that I have all these things, but when you have a channel like this, I feel like it's important for me to try everything and really give everything their fair shake and their best effort from me to make the best decision for what's going to work in a live context so that I can then share that experience with you viewers. There are so many professionals using all of these units. I don't want to get into any arguments or discussion over who thinks this one's crappy, who thinks this one's a toy, who thinks this one's the greatest thing since sliced bread. At the end of the day, this stuff, all the modelers out there, there's one that's right for every person, and honestly, that's really all it comes down to. And I'll go on record saying this, and I'll live and die by this, that it's on the player, 100%. If you can't get one of these to sound great, then it's on you. There's no one that sounds better than the other, in my opinion. You can definitely get certain places easier on certain units. Like you might be faster on a certain unit, and then that should be the one that you go for. But with time and effort, there's no reason why you can't get every unit to sound exactly the same if you actually wanted to put that time in. Anyway, before we even get started, I want to just say that I do love the Quad Cortex. I think it's a great unit. It has the potential to become the greatest unit of all of the ones out there. It's just not there yet. And I know there's people on both sides of the fight that think it's the greatest thing ever. And there's others that think that it's so far behind that it's getting left behind. By the time next year comes around, we could have a new Fractal and a new Helix product. I don't know that, but the way that they put out products and the way that they keep continuously updating those units, Helix and Fractal update every couple of months at the most, if not every couple of weeks. And that's really what keeps their user bases loyal and keeps them around, is because people want stuff and then it gets put in, or they want a feature and it gets considered or added. It just doesn't seem like we're totally being heard as players for the Quad Cortex, in my opinion. Maybe you have all the features you need, and that's cool. And I could gig this the rest of my life and be totally fine, but for right now, I'm choosing other units to play my gigs with. Today, I wanted to talk about my actual touring board, the board that I've made a living off of this summer, and why I didn't choose to include the Quad Cortex in that mix, because the Quad Cortex is like the most hyped unit that's come out in the last couple of years, and there have been so much polarization in that community. Some people say, hey, hold them more accountable for not being what they promised and not putting out updates as regularly as they should. And then there's other people that say, well, that's perfectly usable as is. You should be thankful that you have a great unit. I stand somewhere in the middle there. I think it's important to hold the company accountable for what they promised, but also you could use this professionally and have no problem whatsoever. But I want to talk about the reasons why I don't gig the Quad Cortex. One thing that always just bothered me is the heat and the vents being on the side. You know, this is just, this just gets concerning about whether or not something spills on it or whatever. I don't feel safe with this thing. And that could totally be on me. I just don't want to find out, you know? Like, not that it feels super fragile, but because it's a touchscreen, because there's exposed ventilation on it, and the power supply is, I honestly think the power supply is a complete joke. A normal IEC cable would have been so much better on here, but I just don't know how well this will stand up the test of time on stages. I've seen guys say that they've gigged it every single day for a couple of years and that there's never been a problem, and that's cool. But when I have other options that I know are rock solid and that I'm not going to have a problem with, I'm going to tend to choose those. And I know the size and form factor is a great big plus for this if you're using it as an all-in-one unit. You just slap this on the floor and you're off and running in a great way. But if you ever want to include this on a pedal board, it is oddly shaped. And what I mean by that is that its height is like 1.5 pedals. So, for example, I just have a loose pedal here. it is about 1.5 size of a pedal. So where that gets annoying is if you try to put it on a pedal board, because this, you can't really put a row of pedals alongside this. You'd have to either use maybe 2 smaller ones, or you'd have to lose a space, or maybe go horizontal with one. It's not the most ergonomic, is that the word I want to use here? It's not the most pedal board friendly unit as a whole, where I took the HX Stomp XL on tour this year, and I loved it. I thought it was so great. It did everything I needed it to do, and it fit on the board. I was able to put an overdrive pedal, my Nordland ODRC, was able to go right alongside it on my board, and it was flush across so that I could put a second row of things. On that board, I just have my power supply and my wireless, and when I tried the Quad Cortex on that board, the wireless didn't fit. When we're traveling overseas, I like to have everything on the board, so I have my QLX, my Shure QLX on the actual board, and this wouldn't fit. It wouldn't even come close. So the size is great if it's all-in-one, but also not great if you want to include other things on the board. Other things that just bother me. I don't want this to seem like a whole rant about how some of the UI on this thing is just very annoying. When I'm building a preset, especially if I'm going to be doing a 2-guitar preset where me and our lead singer is going to be on the same preset, you still can't route from lane 1 to lane 2 without putting a separate split block. So that's something that is a little bit of a workflow killer. Yes, it's only a few presses to get to this, but it's something you just don't want to do when you're building something and you're like locked in. The last thing you want to do is unnecessary steps. And also, a lot of the routing stuff they have fixed. So, for example, in the updates, and to their credit, they've done a really good job about fixing the outputs and allowing you to control what the big volume knob does. That's a huge plus. So they are getting there with these updates. They are fixing more and more of the issues that I personally have when it comes to actually gigging this thing. Another thing, these are so close together, and you can't tell what's what. So if I swipe up and I'm in stomp mode, yeah, you can see, and it takes a little bit to get used to this, but it winds up being not a big deal. But the fact that they're not lined up with the foot switches, if you're not fully paying attention, maybe like when you're playing, you're not really paying attention to what your floorboard says. You're kind of just like, sometimes it's just a quick glance and kick, glance and step. You don't have time to think and read and figure out that this one, despite being above this foot switch, is actually over here. So that's a little bit annoying when it comes to the way the layout is with the screen up here and the pedal board here. For example, with the HX Stomp XL that I toured with, the screen being all the way over on the side almost is a little bit better. It's a smaller screen and it's off to the side, so it's not actually coordinated to a button, if that makes sense. Maybe that's just me, but when I look and I see the screen, I think that the button's gonna coordinate to where it is on the screen. And yeah, them being really close together, it's hard to get your foot to only press the top row without pressing the bottom row. Again, if you're just gigging and stuff, you're not thinking about where you're stepping, you just want to be able to step and go. The XL has a similar issue, but they are a little bit wider, further apart. I also put button toppers on them just to make the second row a little bit higher to avoid the same issue. So that's not alone to the Quad Cortex there. I also hate that this preset button is right next to the tuner. So if you hit the tuner or the tap tempo and you accidentally hit that, you're in a new preset, babe. That's a little bit scary. If you're doing tap tempo, you're just tapping along. Oh, you hit something on accident and you wind up in a different preset. That is definitely something to consider that you don't want to be dealing with. And if you press them both, you wind up in the different views and things can get ugly really fast. Like right now, I'm lost. I don't even know where I was. Where's my preset? I don't even know where my preset went. Right there. Okay. I guess, I don't know if that was a glitch or a bug, but my preset disappeared, and I just now couldn't get back to it from just pressing this button on accident. So there's a good case in point why I wouldn't trust taking this out. So what would it take for me to take the actual jump into taking the Quad Cortex exclusively out over any of the other options? I think, first of all, fix the lanes, for the love of God, please. Let us go from row 1 to row 2. I don't understand why we can't do that. It just irks the hell out of me, and it makes me literally not want to use it that you can't do that. I know, wham, first world problems, whatever. It bothers me. And the only other thing I would want is a desktop editor, because now if you're putting this on a board, you don't want to be putting this on a tabletop to make your adjustments. I could have this fight with people all day that say that they don't care about having a desktop editor. I don't care. Then don't use it. But don't make it like people who want it are wrong because we want something different than you. If you don't want it, then don't use it. But I don't want to put this on a pedal board, or like, how are you supposed to check your stomps? You have to keep picking it up, make an adjustment, put it down, check your stomps, pick it up, make an adjustment, put it back down. I don't want to do that. It's just annoying. So that desktop editor, that's coming in October next month, so that should be something that even further ups the game of the Quad Cortex. And I still am a believer in it. I really do think that this can become the greatest unit of them all. It has the right makeup. It has the sounds. There's no reason why this can't be the best unit on the market, but it's just not there yet. So that's my quick rant on the Quad Cortex. Let me know what you guys think below. If you have one, you love it. If you want one, or if you don't and you hate it, let me know in the comments. Let's have a discussion, and let me know what you think of the points that I brought up in this video. If you made it this far, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.